got a little bit of room. 3-on-3 going in. He chips it in behind Gilmore. Back in. Put up. And in. Austin Cangelosi with the game winner in overtime. What a play.
In the game, Sedum will carry the puck behind his net and wait out the buzzer. They're on their feet here at the Covelli Center. And ladies and gentlemen, the Youngstown Phantoms are the 2018 Eastern Conference champions. They're going to the Carr Cup final.
Welcome to episode number 2 of Hockey People Over the Computer Getting Coffee, presented by Dunkin. I got my Dunkin cold brew cup, and today I am joined by Scott Mayfield of the New York Islanders. Scott, how are you, sir?
Doing good. Just hanging in there.
Well, Scott was a member of the original Phantoms team back in 2009 and 2010. Scott wore an A for the team in 2010, 2011. Scott, what have you been up to since the NHL shutdown?
Same as everyone else, just staying home and, I'm trying to stay in shape just in case we start the season back up. Things are, I think this is a big week, looks positive. It's going in the right direction, but just trying to stay in shape and keeping busy.
I saw you out riding the bike on Instagram the other day. How many miles you put in?
Yeah, we got a couple beach cruisers just to take around just our neighborhood. We bought a house last summer, so kind of moving in, settling down a little bit more here on Long Island, and it's going well. It's the bikes are fun though. It's finally getting nice weather too.
Congratulations! I just bought this house that you see me sitting in here. We moved in February, so I'm right there in that same boat, trying to get everything all set up. What is it like driving in New York City? You know, you bought a house there, so you're locked in now, man. What's it like?
Yeah, it's definitely different. It takes a little bit of getting used to. There's Long Island can get a little more suburban. My first time, I drove from Denver. I usually drive, especially now. Me and my fiance Emily, we have a dog, so it's just easier with the dog, drive back and forth, and we spend our summers in Denver. My first time driving out here, the directions took me right through Times Square.
Oh my!
I learned my lesson the hard way pretty quick. I had a big truck. I had the F-150 back then, and it was pretty tough driving through New York City. But Long Island's a little more suburban, just fast and pretty aggressive. You have to be aggressive. That's the biggest thing.
That's fair enough. And I would argue that you probably play that style on the ice as well, so that probably fits you pretty okay. I mean, we could talk about your when you were in the USHL, when you were in the AHL, you averaged over 2 penalty minutes a game. Now you're in the NHL, you're averaging less than 1 penalty minute a game. What has changed about your game between the AHL and the NHL?
I think the penalty minutes were always tough a little bit in junior and in college, kind of, because a lot were just kind of questionable hits. Like, I don't want to say they were dirty hits, but I play on the edge, and some of them were. I got in a little bit more fights back then, I think.
You did. I'm not gonna.
Even my first couple years pro, and that just has to do with hockey in general. I think it's kind of changing, and you got to learn to play. I mean, when you go shorthanded, it puts your team down, and that was kind of a step for me going into pro. Was I knew I couldn't be doing that as much. It's pro's a different style of hockey too. They allow a little bit more, so I think that plays a role. But yeah, the penalty minutes are definitely up there. I was looking at stats the other day. Actually, I was surprised by it when I saw it.
Well, hey, I'm glad it's headed in the right direction for you. Let's talk a little bit about your time in Youngstown. What's your favorite memory from your time in Youngstown, the 2 seasons you spent here?
Yeah, I think the memories I have most are just hanging out with the guys. I think, the bus was, about the bus. Everyone knows.
I know about the bus, yeah.
Especially when I was playing, it was probably the best bus in the league, and everyone wanted to see it, and they took video tours of it and stuff like that, just because it was a really cool setup we had with the sleeper bus, and we had long trips. I mean, I think we had one trip. We were coming back from Green Bay in a snowstorm, and I think it took us 30 hours or something to get home. I mean, it was like we were on that thing for a day and a half, it felt like. So I would say that's probably some of my best memories. And then my billet family always comes up because I still keep in touch with them. I see them at least once a year, even more than that.
Give them a shout out. Give them a shout out.
Yeah, Gail and Jim Ridge. They're not billeting anymore. After I left, they didn't do it. So not sure if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but
we're gonna say you set the bar too high and nobody else could ever.
I think they've kind of told me that, but yeah, they're great people. They fostered a bunch of kids lived in Poland.
Okay.
And they fostered a bunch of kids, and they had one daughter of their own. She was out of the house when I was there, but now they have a couple grandkids, and they're doing really well. I see them pretty much every time, at least once or twice a year. We play Columbus or Pittsburgh. I'll see them, and then Jim and then his son-in-law came to one of the playoff games last year.
Awesome.
Against the Penguins. So I would say that's another thing that pops out when I think of Youngstown, just because I do stay in touch with them and I'm pretty close with them. And then my two roommates, I lived with Andre Suster my first year, who then I got to see a bunch playing. And
I bet you did, yeah.
My second year. So kind of like the extra time you get to spend with your roommates. You spend a lot of time at home and stuff. And especially my second year, I was taking high school online my senior year. And then my first year, me and Andre went into Ursuline Academy every day. So that was just there's a lot of good memories. It was a really good time.
So the year you were a member of the original Phantoms team back in the 09-10 season. What was it like coming into Youngstown, playing for a team brand new in its league and just trying to find its footing?
Yeah, it was I didn't realize much about it. I didn't understand the business aspect necessarily behind hockey. I mean, I was really young. I was 16, so I didn't get that, it's an expansion team and it's going to take a little bit of time. Like for me, it was like, I'm just going and trying to play my best and have fun and, get through high school and all the stuff that was going on away from my family the first year. Now that I think about it, there was a lot of challenges. There was a lot of kind of up and down moments from kind of the business side and the new team feel. We didn't make playoffs either year. And so I think that now after playing more hockey and kind of being at higher levels, I kind of see that a little bit more. At the time, it was kind of just like, we're just playing. And, you come from AAA, that's almost like it's more fun rec hockey kind of than. So I guess I didn't really take it in then. But yeah, it was interesting because we did have the coaching change then, which for me at the time, I didn't even really think anything of it as far as like, that's kind of like, that sucks for him. Like we don't get to see him anymore. I really like Bob. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, I really like Coach Carr a lot too. So, and for me, it's like, and I've always been this way. It's kind of control what you can. And, I can't do anything about that. I just got to go out and play and do my best that I can do on the ice.
So, yeah, for fans that don't remember back in the 09-10 season, Coach Mainhart got fired with about 16 games left in the year, and Coach Carr replaced him and then coached the team during your second year. What was it like playing for those two guys, for the fans that don't remember them?
Yeah, it was great. It was good hockey. It was we learned a lot. From me especially, if you look at my development I committed to school before I came, but my development happened the year before Youngstown, and then then my second year I was on the draft radar more. So that kind of where my really development curve was. So it was big for me. They did a lot for me. I actually saw Coach Carr not too recently, but a couple summers ago at Ty Loney's wedding. He played there. Funny story actually with Loney, because we played at Denver together too. Still, he spends time in Denver. His wife's from there, so we get together quite a bit in the summer. But funny story is he came in. His first practice was the day that Coach Mainhart got let go.
Oh my!
And so I see Loney's bag in there, and me and some of the guys take all the equipment out, wrap it around a chair, tape it up, play a prank. And then Coach comes in, and Loney doesn't have a place to sit, so he kind of just sits on the floor next to it. And then Coach Mainhart had to give that talk to us that he was leaving, and it was kind of like, tough time to do that. But that's my first time meeting Ty, and now we're good friends and get to see each other all summer and spend a lot of time together.
So speaking of the pranks and the 09-10s and the 10-11 team, let's talk a little bit about those teams. See who what your opinion is. Who was the prankster of those teams? From what I'm hearing, you might have had a little bit to do with that.
I always like to have fun. I think especially my second year, when you get a little more comfortable and you've been a year in the league already and stuff. My first year, with the expansion team, we kind of plucked players from different teams. So some guys I remember, like Tom Serratori, Brett Gensler, Taylor Holmstrom. We had a couple guys that they'd been around a little bit. So I think those are the guys. Jordan Tibbett, he was a good buddy of mine. So we had a really good group of guys. I mean, we really didn't have too many any negative experiences, I don't think, that I can remember. It was 2 fun years, and the group of guys were great. My second year, Adam Burkle was our captain. I lived with Stu Higgins. That was a good time. We had a good group of guys, and we had fun. I do wish we would have made playoffs and maybe done a little bit better on the ice, but it was definitely a good start to my moving away from home and kind of learning to grow up.
Who was always late on those teams? Who was always late?
I don't know if I remember who was always late. I know it wasn't me and Andre or me and Stu, because we were pretty timely people, all three of us. I don't think there's too many guys that really stand out. Brandon Russo, he was only there for a little bit, but he kind of stands out as sometimes maybe could have been late. I could see that.
Okay.
I mean, I do remember I got in trouble my first year as far as school goes. There were some times we'd leave school early or want to get to the rink to be early. And, there were times it's hard when you're in school and you kind of it's a grind to get through the schoolwork, to get through practice and all that. And, I probably missed a couple more days than I should have, but and my billet mom was pretty forgiving as far as calling the school on my behalf. But it's it can get to a grind. I think we had a good team. I can't remember too many guys that really stick out as, and it's more because Coach Carr wouldn't take that. Maynard wouldn't take that. I remember him being strict.
I believe that about Bob. I absolutely believe that. And
he has that edge, and I love that. I like that in hockey. I don't think it's around as much, that old school kind of really tough love kind of coaching style. But I remember Bob had that a lot, and they didn't really let that happen.
Well, I think the statute of limitations has expired on all of the hooky at Ursuline High School, so we're going to let you slide. And if Nan Jacobs, if you're watching, please don't tell the principal.
I'm sure she knows a couple of the days I missed.
Who was that guy that after just the worst practice, you're just all dog tired, bent over at the waist? Who was the guy who was like, yeah, I can still go. Let's skate some more. Who was that guy? I
remember Yuri Sakoch had a lot of energy.
Okay.
And it showed. He made it really far. I remember he always was trying to get better, and same with Andre. Kind of both them, especially they both being Czech and everything. I remember those two. We actually picked Yuri up my first year because he only played a little bit. My first year, I believe. I don't remember how much, but we picked him up one time from the airport. We went and got him. Okay. And I remember he kind of just brought a lot of energy into the room. And then Andre was always working on his game. Everything about Andre at home, even he was doing stuff to get better. And he's kind of another guy and I think that helped me because he was a little bit older than me. And I knew he was going to play. Like he didn't know anyone here. He just came here and made the team. And, he didn't have any agent or any advisor at that time or anything like that. And I introduced him to who's my agent now, Matt Cater, and he's been with him. And I just remember Andre kind of setting that style as like what it takes to be kind of a pro or to be like, to go to the next level. So those are two guys that I think stand out quite a bit to me.
Who's the last guy off the ice every night after practice?
I don't know. I think you got the guys that kind of stay around and play games. I remember Mahalik, the goalie. He would stay on and he'd always play rebound with us. Like if we want to play rebound and play a game with him, he'd stay on for us. I don't think we had anyone that was like really there 24/7. I don't think.
Okay.
And it wasn't. If you think about it, it was kind of hard to do that too. Like I don't know if they still practice there, but the rink we practiced at had figure skaters getting on right after our practice.
There's still a rink down at the ice zone. It's called Deep Freeze now, but there is still practice going on at the ice zone.
Yeah, so you kind of had a time limit. Like you didn't have unlimited time to go do what you want and stuff. But you kind of start feeling out. You see guys that are kind of putting in extra work, and I went to the YMCA. Me and a couple of the guys, we'd go to the YMCA sometimes after, because we didn't really have a gym either. Like we didn't have access to that as much. And I actually, my first year, I stayed an extra like month after season because I had to finish school.
Okay.
And all the other guys that were in school were seniors. They got out like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before I did even. So they got out and then they went home. Then I was kind of left in school as the only junior. And so I needed a place to work out. I was going to gyms and doing stuff like that. So, I think, junior hockey is a really interesting time in players' lives. You just kind of figure out what you need to do to get to the next level. And, some guys do a ton of stuff and just don't make it too. It's a really interesting time period.
So, you mentioned junior hockey being, a really formative time in a lot of people's careers. And I understand it's a little weird. It's the nature of the game. What's it like going up against guys that you played against in junior and college, same team, or, you saw them on another team in the league? What's that like? Yeah,
I mean, it's, it's always been kind of part of the game. I remember even growing up in St. Louis, there's guys that then I'd see them in junior hockey again, or I'd see them in college hockey. So it's always been part of the game. The hockey community is really small. So I don't know if I really noticed it too much. I remember playing Andre, probably first game, it would have been college, because he went to UNO. And so Denver, UNO, whatever our first game was. I remember, and it was kind of like, God, I lived with him and like we were best friends for a year. And we went everywhere together, every meal together, everything. And then you're going up against each other. We're both kind of bigger physical guys. Like if we got into a corner, we're not holding back on each other.
Not at all, no.
And so it's interesting like that, but that's always been part of it, and you kind of see it. My training group in Denver right now, like we have 5, 6, 7 NHL guys. We have a bunch of guys that play in the American League or overseas. And, we all get along really well. And then 2 months later, we see each other in game 1 and we all get to play against each other again. So it's, it's fun. That's part of hockey. You build relationships, even though on the ice, they're enemies kind of.
All right. I'm Matt Lipzak, Voice of the Phantoms. We're talking with Scott Mayfield of the New York Islanders, formerly of the Youngstown Phantoms, and you are watching Hockey People Over the Computer Getting Coffee, brought to you by Dunkin. Love that stuff. So, Scott, how do you feel playing in the USHL and playing in Youngstown prepared you for playing at the collegiate and professional levels?
Yeah, like I said, that's a junior hockey, that time period, especially for me because I was a little bit younger, it was just a growing on the ice and off the ice. I think off the ice might be more important even. Just because you're away from home. You don't always have, some billet families are super strict. Some are not strict at all. Some are not there. Others are always over your shoulder. It's a transitioning period that for me, it was huge for me. I grew up really quick. I was 16. I left home. My mom cried and it was time to move on and just try to go chase what I wanted to do. And that was play. And like I said, everyone that's helped me, the coaches, the billets, teammates, everything, it just has progressed me. And then into college, I hit college flying as a true freshman. And, I felt like I gained confidence in Youngstown. I think for me, playing on an expansion team helped me in the terms of I played a lot. Especially my second year, I think I might have played too much. Probably could have reined the minutes back a little bit. I think that would have helped my game, actually. I think I was getting a little tired out in games. And I remember some of the nights a coach would pull me in and you'd just be like, yeah, that was too much. Like that, you can't be doing that long. And it was Noreen, the assistant coach at the time. But it was, it made the transition easy. I mean, I think every level, the hardest level for me was going from the minors to the NHL. That's kind of the one league that, when I went from AAA hockey to Youngstown, I played every game. I was in the lineup. I went from Youngstown to college. I was scratched one game in college, and I needed it. I had a bad Friday night, and they sat me Saturday night or whatever it was, and I needed it. It's kind of one of those you're going to sit, but it's not a negative thing. You just need to watch from upstairs and get your confidence back, and that helped me. And then I went into the minors. I went into the American Hockey League, and that transition was nice too. Bridgeport wasn't a top team at the time. We didn't make playoffs. I played every game, but then getting in the NHL was really the hardest transition, I think. And that's really where it weeds out like that last little bit, I think. And to be honest, I'm still going through it. Every day I kind of go to the rink with the mindset, like, what do I need to do to make sure I don't get sent down, cut, traded, anything. Like, I'm going every day. I think that. So it's, and it all started really back in Youngstown, because AAA hockey doesn't really get you ready for much. It's when you move away and hockey's your job, kind of, and that starts in junior.
You mentioned young. Look at this young buck right here.
Oh yeah.
Look at that kid. Look at that baby face.
Couple less scars than now.
I see you got something under the eye here.
Yeah, like maybe third or fourth last game. Whenever they write this happened, and that's when they push the media out of the locker rooms and into the hallways.
Okay.
That's how I'm measuring up what game it was when coronavirus came in. But this happened. 5 or 6 stitches right under the eye. It's still red, but my fiance, we were supposed to get married July 25th. That got postponed now, but she was a little, you're gonna have that for the pictures, and it's gonna be redder in the summer, and it hasn't gone away yet. So hopefully soon.
Well, a little bit of concealer. She's probably got that in the makeup, right?
Yeah, she can help me out there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to take you back to draft day. Pick number 34, the 2011 NHL draft. First round's just ended. The New York Islanders have called your name. You're the first Phantom alum actually to get drafted. So what's going through your head? What were your emotions on that day?
Yeah, I had a lot of emotions. I think the first thing that pops into mind was I was a little – not upset, but just always will remember I wasn't taken in the first round, kind of. Because I did go Friday night. I was told, my advisor and and just, you see the rankings and you kind of see, and, if you're in the first round, you want to be there, obviously, because you get to go up on stage and do all that. So I was there, and, it's a long time waiting there for 30 names to be called in New York.
Oh, man.
And, Rocco Grimaldi was sitting right in front of me, and he wasn't either. And kind of both of us knew it was going to be really quick the next day. And so I guess just going to bed, I think I went to bed Friday night just kind of what, it didn't happen, move on and get excited, and kind of use that as, you weren't a first rounder, which also it takes a little bit of pressure off. If you think about it, there's guys that go in the first round and have immense pressure and never able to pan out really. So I think that would happen. And then, just to hear my name called and then it be New York. New York's one of the coolest places to live. It's right real close to the city. I take a train to the city 30 minutes, and New York City has everything. So that was pretty exciting to think someday I'll be doing that. And then at the time they had a big connection with Denver. The Islanders had a connection with Denver players. You had Rhett Rockshani, Matt Donovan, another defenseman. So kind of just that little connection there. I knew they would, one of my fears always was you get drafted by a team and they don't want you to go to the school you chose, or they don't want you to do this. And then you have to kind of make a decision. I don't think that happens too much. I don't know, but the Islanders are great with whatever development path I wanted. And they were just like, you're going to be a big part day and all this, and they took their time with me. So it was exciting. It was, you hear your name called, and I had 2 of my best friends there, my parents, my cousin, my sister. Like it was just, we had a lot of family, a lot of friends, and it's just a really special time.
That's awesome, Scott. So if and when the NHL decides to have its draft this summer, there are 3 kids who played in Youngstown this past year who, might get their name called. Trevor Kuntar out of Western New York, Colin Purcell out of Cleveland, Ben Schoen out of the Toledo area. If you were talking directly to them right now, what advice would you have for them just about the whole process and then what comes after?
Yeah, I would say just enjoy it. I think the time leading up to the draft can be a little stressful. It can be a little intimidating. It's an unknown, right? Especially with what's going on right now. It's very unknown.
No combine. Yeah, there's no combine this year.
Combine, which might actually take some of the stress off. The combine's pretty stressful I think I had like 20 interviews in 2 days and then the workout on the last day. It can be pretty stressful, but no, just enjoy it. I mean, it's time that realize its effect on other people. I mean, your parents and siblings and friends, like everyone is excited for you, but I was excited for my parents. I mean, I don't think they ever thought that would happen. I don't see why they would have thought that. And so I was just excited for everyone that we all got to share it together. And then the biggest advice is the draft's great, but it's not an end at all. And it's not a guarantee of anything either. I mean, if you look at the numbers by rounds, especially, it's still a really uphill battle to make it. Even first rounders have an uphill battle to make it because they're supposed to make it and be really good. It's not the end, and you just have to stick with it. You don't get anything from it really. You might, when you start getting into the American League, start getting into little call-ups here and there might be a little at first that has to do with, well, he's our first rounder. We got to try him first. But in the end, they're going to take the best players. They're going to find the best players, and it's still an uphill battle, and you just got to keep working. So that's my biggest thing is the draft's great. There's plenty of players that were never drafted. There's plenty of players that went low in the draft. And then there's also plenty of players that went high in the draft that never made it. So, it's not the end. There's still a lot of work.
Awesome, Scott. That's great advice for those guys. Thank you very much. Before I let you go, anything for Netflix or Hulu for those of us who are stuck at home?
I'm big. The Michael Jordan documentary.
Yes.
On ESPN. That's my big one. I actually didn't watch last night, so I got those 2 episodes. And then we watch a lot of like cooking show stuff. So Top Chef is currently on Thursday nights. All the Chef's Tables, stuff like that on Netflix. And then Ozark, just because growing up in St. Louis, I went to the Lake of the Ozarks and know kind of the area, and I have friends that have houses and boats, and it looks a little bit different than they portray it in the in the show, but it's a fun place in the summer. So I'd say Ozark's probably up there too.
All right, awesome. Scott, thank you so much for joining us here on Hockey People Over the Computer Getting Coffee, presented by Dunkin. I'm Voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipsack, and we will see you at our next episode, everybody. Sound out. Fade to black.